everybody. Randy Patterson here with Boomerocity. And you know me, I like to introduce you to new up and coming artists, and especially when I fall in love with their sound. And so that happened when I was turned on to the new album that is coming out. It's called War Within, and the artist is Jessie Wagner, and she is such an amazing talent. The album is on Wicked Cool Records, which is Steven Van Zant's album, record label. And you know Steven from the E Street Band. So if Steven has gone to the trouble and the expense of recording it, you know it's got to be good. We've interviewed Ricky Byrd from there and others. This is an amazing album. This album reminds me of listening to the radio when I was growing up in Phoenix. You know how it was. Radio stations would play a Rolling Stones song one moment and Donna Fargo the next, and then the Osmonds the next, and then Deep Purple, and then Jimi Hendrix, and then Conway Twitty. I mean, it was just all over the map, but it was fun. We got exposed to all sorts of different kinds of music. And this is kind of like that album, or this album here is kind of like that. It's fun. It's like listening to the radio way back then, and yet it's brand new, fresh music. I encourage you to get it. It's a great album. Jessie Wagner's a wonderful artist, got a sweet spirit about her, and I am an immediate fan of hers. So I think if you listen to the album, you will be too. So while you're listening to this, would you mind hitting like and subscribe? Neither one's going to cost you anything, but it helps us out tremendously. And feel free to share this interview with people that are looking for new music to listen to. So without any further ado, here's my first of what I sure hope are many more interviews to come with Jessie Wagner. Until next time, this is Randy Patterson with Boomerocity. Take care.
Hello.
Hello, Jessie. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Where are you clicking in from?
I'm in New York,
New York, New York City?
Queens.
Queen. Oh, okay, Queens. I'm in the Smoky Mountains. We don't have big cities like that here, so
Oh, that's beautiful. Very
it is.
beautiful.
I
Yes,
love it here.
I used to live in Tennessee years ago. So
Oh, really? What
yeah,
part?
I lived in Goodlettsville, and I lived in Nashville many moons ago.
I see. Have you been there lately?
Not lately. No, I would love to go back. I romanticize it because it was a very it was my first taste of real adulthood on my own living in Nashville.
How long ago has it been since you've been there?
Uh, oh my goodness. I haven't been down to Tennessee since my last tour, I think, when I was with Little Steven. I think we might have passed through there. It was either Little Steven or maybe with Lenny Kravitz. It's been a while.
Been a while. Well,
Yeah.
let me tell you, I worked down there. I was in downtown on my day job at the time. I'm retired now, but I was downtown right near the Ryman. All right, so I was really
Oh,
downtown, and
yeah.
so COVID hit.
Oh my.
Company sent us to remote work, so I came back to Sevierville in the Smokies to be near my aging dad, and I live next door to him now. He's got Alzheimer's, but I had to go back to get some of my stuff that I left behind, and it had been 2 or 3 months, and already in that time the skyline had changed. I mean,
Oh,
that place is under perpetual construction. You won't
exactly.
recognize it at all. I
I
mean,
bet I wouldn't. Yeah. New York is somewhat similar.
yeah,
It's
well,
all,
that's what I understand. Yeah.
yeah.
So, well, first of all, I love your new album, but before we get into talking about it, I'd like for you to tell, because I mostly hit a classic rock, blues, country. I try to get R&B as often as I can, and some of the real old blues people and such. But so I'm a little bit outside of my normal wheelhouse. But when I got the one sheet on you and your new album, I gave it a listen. I was like, I want to talk to that girl. So I said all that to say this. So that because there's probably a good chance a lot of the people that tune in to my shows may not be familiar with you already. So if you wouldn't mind maybe sharing a little bit of your story and a little bit of your resume.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'll start off Jessie Wagner. Hi. Um, let's see. I've been singing for many, many years. I started my career with Now Rogers and Chic. So
Mm.
yeah, what a way to start. Yeah. I toured with them for many years, and that was probably the perfect entrance into this world for me is I learned a lot. He and the other singer taught me a lot about what it meant to be on stage. And from there, I sang with Kid Rock for about 6 or 7 years. And then once I was with him, I got a call to audition for another singer, and it turned out to be Lenny Kravitz. So
Wow.
I jump shipped, hopped on the Lenny train, and I sang with him for about 4 years. And in between that, I was with Duran Duran for about a year and a half, which was really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And lately, I've been going out with Stevie Van Zandt. Our last full tour was before Bruce went back out on the road. Is where Bruce goes, Stevie goes. So,
Right.
but we do shows every once in a while. We do like last year we were with Darlene Love on the Tonight Show
Mm.
with Jimmy Fallon, which was really, really exciting just to be one with Darlene Love because she's absolutely wonderful and I love her to death. But
Hmm.
Jimmy Fallon is really fun show to be a part of as well. And if it weren't for Stevie Van Zandt, I wouldn't have my record label or be a part of Wicked Cool, which is his record label. So
Yep.
that's a little bit of my musical background.
Cool. When you were with Lenny, was Cindy still playing drums for him, Cindy
Yes, she
Santana?
was. She
Uh,
started off, and then Franklin Vanderbilt came a couple of years later. But yeah, it was Cindy on drums, and she was just she's a powerhouse, amazing.
she is. She is.
Yeah.
I've interviewed her 3 times, I think. I absolutely adore her. She's just such a sweet spirit
Oh,
and an
definitely.
amazing drummer. I mean, I've never interviewed her husband, but I've interviewed her like 3 times, and each time she's got a little bit, she's set up a little bit differently. I think the last time she might have been, I'm trying to remember if she is on the continent or back at her place in Hawaii, but I know one of the times I talked to her when she was at her place in Hawaii, and she's just a hoot to talk to. She's so much fun, such an easy
Yeah,
vibe.
yeah.
But
Like you said, with good spirit. Yeah, definitely.
yeah, and then Stevie, I haven't met him yet, but I've interviewed his label, one of your label mates, Ricky Bird, several times,
Yeah.
and,
Okay.
and
Yeah,
so
that's good.
Ricky's a great guy, and I my goal someday is to talk to Stevie because not only about the music but about the business side of things because he's
Oh,
obviously a very sharp businessman.
most
So
definitely. And he has his hands in a lot of different pots, and they're all doing well. I mean, he has his wellness company where you can get his teas and he has candles, all these wonderful things. And aside from that, he has Wicked Cool, the underground garage station.
mhm.
Not to mention the acting credits, and I believe he's also working on a score for a new movie. So he's just all over the place. He's amazing and has more energy than I than I do. I was like, "Can I borrow some?" So yeah, he's pretty phenomenal, and I couldn't believe my ears when he proposed me being part of the Wicked Cool family. So it's really an honor to be a part of it.
Oh, well, you're in great company there, that's for sure. Well, tell me the story behind this album. Like I said, I love every cut on it. I fell in love with it the moment I heard the first notes on the first song, and so tell me all about it.
Thank you. Well, my music is I think I'm probably an outlier as far as like defining the genre because I consider myself genreless. I love pop, rock, soul, country. It's all been a part of my upbringing. As a Southern girl, I was born in Virginia. I lived in Alabama and Tennessee a lot of my youth. So I have influences from all different pockets, and it comes out in my music. So when you listen to a Jessie Wagner record, you're going to get a little bit of everything.
Hmm.
And just like with my last album, Shoes Dropping, I tend to draw from where I am mentally when I write my songs. And but I also try to have the light and the dark. So there are some themes that I deal with, like getting older, and the loss of love. But I also try to insert some happiness, like You See Me, which is a cut about finding someone who understands you, or even Just Can't Today, which might sound like it's it's not necessarily a happy song, but it is a happy song because it's a hopeful song. It's about having to take a break from everything when it gets a little too overwhelming and then coming back when you feel refreshed. So I like to deal with themes of light and dark and take you on a journey, and that's pretty much what War Within is. It's a journey through a lot of different themes that I've been experiencing.
Well, you mentioned something that I should have thought of this when I was listening to it because it does. I'll hear albums that do exactly what you were just describing, but maybe a little bit different genre or a little bit different angle to it. But I guess the reason why your album grabbed me the way it did because it is genreless. It goes from one style to another. And me growing up, I'm gauging that I'm a bit older than you. I too lived in Alabama before moving to Arizona as a kid, born here in Tennessee. So go figure. But when I was a kid growing up and first started getting into listening to the radio, radio was that way. You'd hear a Rolling Stones and then an Elvis and then a Donna Fargo and then Deep Purple and Jimi Hendrix. I mean, it would just go from one kind of song to another,
Right.
all on the same station. And so, and I'm all for how granular radio is now and streaming, but good Lord, I mean, to be able just, we're not that myopic in our listening of styles for the most part. And so you just nailed why, and I didn't even realize it, why I love your album because it's exactly that way. And so my hat's off to you on that. How long did it take you to make this record? When did you start? When did you finish
Oh,
getting
it
all
it
done?
we had a bit of a backlog issue, so the record's been done for a couple of years now. Um, but fortunately, I think they had a lot of different records coming out at the same time at the label, and it's a small independent label, and they're very hands-on. They want to make sure that they're part of it to help you really get the best out of it that you possibly can. So even though I had to delay, I appreciate it. It was because it was a place of concern and they want to make sure that they can be there for you the way they need to be there for you. Unlike maybe
Hmm.
some of the bigger labels that just kind of like,
Yeah.
here you go.
Yep.
So,
Or just forget about it and let it
or
get
forget
lost
about
in
it.
the shuffle somewhere. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this was your second album, correct?
Yes, my first album, well, my second album with Wicked Cool. Before Wicked Cool, I was just putting out stuff independently, and I was definitely more of a rocker. Had some heavier tunes. Um, but you get older, your style evolves, and then I just kind of write however I feel. It's just the song comes out how it comes out. I never know how I'm going to interpret it until it's down. And then once
Mhm.
you get in the studio, it's like, no, this needs to be like this needs to be like that. And I try to be very hands-on in the process as well. But with Wicked Cool, yeah, this is my second project. The first one was Shoes Dropping, which kind of explores themes of transition as well, because I was going through a very difficult period in my life, hence the topic shoes dropping. It was not waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's like all the shoes were dropping.
The whole closet
The
fell,
whole
right?
closet, exactly, was falling on my head. So it was me trying to cope with all the different circumstances that I was experiencing, and but again, with light and dark, there are some happier tracks. There are some more darker tracks with because it was a very difficult period. But it led when Stevie heard it, and he really kind of understood where I was coming from, and he thought I would be a good fit for the label. And fortunately, they still think I'm a good fit. As here we are with War Within.
Well, how was this album different to put together compared to not only Shoes Dropping, but any other album you were a part of in the studio?
And my process is very much schizophrenic, like my music. You know, it's like I think when I was writing some of the songs and recording, I was back on the road, so it's kind of you get in where you fit in, and that's been my process with all the music I put out because as a working musician, you got to take the time when you find the time
Hmm.
and get it done, and that's pretty much how my process has always been. Um, and my music has always been a bit varied, like my last album. It's just so I wouldn't say there was the process is very similar. It's not too dissimilar from what I did before. Um, and I think I this album probably has a bit more love songs than the last album. But aside from that, it's very similar in tone and variety.
Cool. As far as while you were putting it together, were there any surprises that you ran into that you weren't, I mean, good or negative, that you weren't anticipating? Something that it's like, wow, hadn't experienced this quite this way before.
No, well, I had some issues with, finding the right engineer. That's always a challenge. And sometimes you get a guy, they'll recommend someone, a friend, whatever, and they do really great things with a particular style, but it
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily translate with what you're trying to do. So that was the challenge. And the engineer that worked on my first album, Shoes Dropping, he passed away.
Ooh.
And yeah, it was really, a devastating blow because he was not only so talented, but a really sweet guy. So the challenge of finding somebody who gets you, who is willing to work with you and understand. I don't always have the right technical terms. I'll say things like, "Oh, I need a little bit more candy in this spot," or and I'm sure any engineer is like, "What?"
Didn't
So
learn that in engineering school, did he? So,
right, exactly. So I did have a couple of people engineer it before I got Jeff Sanoff to do it, and he cleaned it up and got it where it needed to be. So God bless him for getting my schizophrenia.
well, what's been the feedback? I'm going to ask you a two-part question. One's about this album specifically, and then maybe probably the second part of the question would maybe go back to your first album,
Okay.
and that is, hey, what's been the feedback so far of friends and family, people, the insiders that have gotten to hear it, and then secondly, because of where you write from in here, and you know kind of making yourself vulnerable by sharing the feelings you have based on the experiences you're writing about. I'm sure that's had to connect with people who have heard the songs. So I'd be curious to know also, in addition to the feedback, what kind of stories are you hearing from fans who hear your music and they, oh my gosh, that resonated with me because I went through something similar or something like that?
Right. What the full album comes out next week, next
Hmm.
Friday. So not too many people have heard the whole project. But some people have heard the first single that came out, which was I Just Can't Today, and
Hmm.
Up Against the Wall. And I as far as like I Just Can't Today, it seems to really resonate with people because everyone has had that sentiment.
Hmm.
You have that moment where you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go watch Netflix and I'll come back to whatever it is later. You know, so I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, especially from those who have heard that song. And Up Against the Wall is a little racier, and it was a bit more surprising because I kind of straddled the line between trying to be cute and trying to be demure. So it was a little sexier, but I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from Up Against the Wall. My videos tend to be very playful and fun, and those who watch my videos like to see the stories that I come up with. Um, but as far as the old album, Shoes Dropping, it was the same kind of thing. I do write from the heart. It's very cathartic and freeing, but yes, it does leave you in a vulnerable state, especially when you're bearing your soul the way that I sometimes tend to, maybe a little too much. Maybe I could cover up some. No, um,
You can just say, "Hey, I have this friend that I'm writing about," right? So,
right, yeah. Um, but I think when you're honest like that, then people do it resonates with them. They do understand, they find that connection. With the old album, I had a lot of people that really liked my song Great One, which is about the insecurity of being an artist and not have a lot. I know a lot of artists that experience imposter syndrome, and I'm one of them as well. Even though I've had a lot of successes in my life, and that I'm very grateful, God, thank you, God. But there's always that nagging presence in the back of your mind saying, "Oh, you're not here because you're not one of the great ones." And that song is kind of like me confronting that demon in the back of my mind, telling you, you're not one of them. And I think a lot of artists understand that because they go through that. Even some of the ones that are considered the great ones, they still struggle with the insecurity
hmm
of
hmm
being an artist, because you do it because you love it. But if you get some positive feedback, if you get somebody who connects with your music, then that's just the cherry on top because that means someone gets it. So, if you put something out and you feel like nobody hears you or nobody understands, it can be daunting. It can be, it can be dismaying. So, to know that other artists experience that insecurity and have heard that song and appreciated it makes you feel that connection, feel like I was heard.
well, I think too, I wouldn't even limit that to people in the arts. I mean, you could put that into any field, a successful doctor or a climbing, someone who's establishing their practice, a school teacher, anybody who gets accolades. I mean, I think upbringing can have a lot to do with their own receptivity to their success. And so, I think your music could be cathartic to anyone who wrestles with those insecurities. I mean, I no, there's no doubt in my mind that it would, and so I don't be surprised if you get more and more of that kind of feedback from people because, and then you are the hand of God extended in helping people feel a little more comfortable in their own skin, right? So,
Thank you. Yeah, well,
so
if you if you believe in a divine presence, whatever that presence is, then he's going that presence will use you, to connect with people, to find that commonality that makes us human, because we all have
hmm
the same
hmm
human experiences. It may vary in style and how we process it, but we're all going through some kind of, you know, life-altering experience. And it's nice
hmm
to have something we can listen to that we're like, that's it. They get it.
That's right. That's right. I'm curious, what is, from your perspective, what is your fan base made consist of? I mean, what age wise, the whole
It,
nine yards.
it varies. But I think because I've toured with so many wonderful artists, I've been fortunate that a lot of those fans have come along my journey with me. But I guess, my audience has been, the between the 30s and the 60s, that kind of range.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because I go again going along with the type of artist that I've been that I've worked with.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Mm-hmm.
then, every once in a while I'll have a young person and like, oh, I really like that song, and I'm like, you do? You heard it? So,
Well, I'm hoping with us talking, I can maybe get a bunch of the us older people, more of those, so you can kind of level that teeter totter a little bit. So,
anybody who tunes in and listens, I'm grateful for. I'm thinking, yeah. So,
so what after this? This album's going to be releasing next week, and hopefully, I can have this edited and out for next week's consumption to support the album. If not next week, it'll be the week after. But what else? Once the dust settles on this project, and you're you're starting to think of other things, what would you like to A, do next, and B, somewhere in your career eventually do? What kind of project? Who would you like to work with? That kind of thing.
I, you know, it's funny because I always wanted to work with Lenny Kravitz, and I worked with Lenny Kravitz. Now, if he wants to write a song with me, I'll take it. You know? But I would love to go on tour. When Shoes Dropping, it came out in 2020, and we were setting up a tour for it, and of course, it fell apart. And I never got that experience, and I would love to take my music on the road. That, and as a songwriter, I have my peaks and valleys, but I'm always writing no matter what. I mean, I write for clients. I have DJs that contact me and I write for them. I'm always writing. It's always going to be another project, another album. Even if I decide to give it all up, I'm still going to write for church or write for, my mom's next birthday party or whatever. It's always going to be a part of my journey. But ultimately I would like to take this music on the road, and I would love to open up for an act like YOLO. She's an amazing artist that I love. Or let me see, who else would I love to open it up for? Of course, as soon as you ask a question, then your mind goes blank. Yeah, or maybe even Stevie. Maybe one day I can open up for Stevie Van Zandt, or any of the artists that I've worked for before. If I could open up for them and share the stage that way, that would
Hmm.
be the ultimate, the culmination of my career. It's like, here I am. I'm with you.
Hmm.
I'm not supporting you. I'm part of where you are, and I'm not 20 feet behind. I'm right there in the front with you. So
Yeah,
that.
it's funny you say that because I was going to ask you a minute ago, and then I let it slip. As if you ever watched 20 Feet from Stardom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I bought a copy of it. I loved it so much. But it's always so cool to listen to those people's stories, and
Right.
a couple of people I got to interview, especially Lisa Fisher. I'm a big Lisa Fisher
She,
fan,
so when I got to sing with her a couple of times, and like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
and
Because that's another pure, beautiful soul. And because I was awestruck when I sang with her, and we were just doing backgrounds on an album. I think it was for Carlos Santana. Um, and I went into it so nervous. Screw all the accomplishments I've had. I'm like, this is Lisa Fisher,
hmm
And she was just the biggest heart, most loving person, just put me at such an ease that it was one of the best sessions I've ever been a part of. I love her.
there's a video out on YouTube where I forget who the guitarist is, but I was mesmerized by both of them. The guitarist was just amazing, and of course she's always amazing. But they were doing this really bluesy, sultry version of Wild Horses of the Rolling
Wow.
Stones. And oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many times I've played that video, but I told her, in fact, I've only interviewed her once, and I had first heard that right before I interviewed her, and it's before I started doing video stuff and all that. But I just told her, I said, man, I love that performance. There's just everything about it, her voice, his playing. the
Hmm.
solos, all of that stuff. And she's been on my mind lately, and I want to reach out to her people and see if I can talk to her just because, we don't
Right.
have to have a new album out to
Oh,
to
yeah.
to talk and catch up with her. So I think it would be fun to do. But that's cool that you got to work with her. That's
Yeah.
neat.
I would love to work with her again. Again, she's the kind of artist that you learn from,
Hmm.
even
Hmm.
if just by watching how she executes her style, her phrasing. It's just,
Hmm.
she's definitely one of the great ones.
She is, and I mean, she was placed in a difficult position. I mean, she was with the Stones for so long, but at first people had to be comparing her to Mary Clayton, right? And I mean, Mary was just like freaking awesome.
Right.
And not to cast shade on who took Lisa's place, she's good, but to
Hmm.
me, to me, the ultimate was Lisa and how she does it and
Right.
how she was consistent all those years with the Stones. And
Right.
I saw them 3 times, and I always waited for Give Me Shelter,
Yeah.
to just hear her part, and
Oh,
I've
definitely.
interviewed Bernard a few times, and I mean those two together were just
Magic.
incredible.
Magic.
They
Yeah.
they were worth the price of admission right there. Sorry, Mick.
That's the beauty of support musicians. And why I appreciate that film, because um it's such an integral part of the show that doesn't always get the light shine shown on it the way it needs
Hmm.
to. And fortunately, you have artists like Lisa Fisher that, she's just going to be a standout no matter what.
Right.
But having that support on stage for an artist it just completes the sound, gives it the fullness, and
Hmm.
it's just nice to see people appreciate how you're giving that background, giving that foundation. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. It is. Well, what's on your radar for the rest of the year?
Well, I have the album release show coming up May 29th, so that's
Hmm.
the big thing that I'm talking about right now. And again, I'm just hoping to put together maybe a little mini tour with the new album, knock on wood, see if I can get that together. And I just look forward to, promoting the album, promoting the songs, and continuing to write for more artists. So, this won't be the last time you hear about me.
Good. And I hope this isn't the last time we're talking together either, because I'm a fan, big fan now. And
Okay.
I'll keep an eye on you. And if you're ever in my neck of the woods, hopefully I'll be able to meet up to you, give you a hug on the neck, and
Okay.
maybe have you sign an album or something.
I would love that. Yeah.
Well, Jesse, this has been a blast. Again, hats off to this great album. And before you have a fan in me, and anytime you've got something to promote, please include me in it, and we'll set one of these up. The door's always open.
Okay. Thank
All right,
you.
well, listen, have a good day, and we'll be